All right, there we go. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks for joining me on the show, everybody. Welcome, Blazor fans. I was just saying I've got some new Twitch streaming music. So, guys, let me know if that music is too loud, too quiet, any of the above, while the stream is going on today, because I'm trying to get used to the new widget that plays that music. So, keep me informed as to how it's working. I've got some fun news. It's so quiet. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't want it to be too loud. Let's see if we can crank this up just a little bit, not blow everybody out. It's got some, it's called Pretzel Music. So it's a streaming friendly platform for music that has a low cost but high production. I love it. So hopefully that works out well for everybody. Got some fun stuff on the show today and quite a few demos lined up. So hopefully we have time for all of those. I think one of them might end up being a multi-part thing. We'll see. Hopefully we got some new people on the show as well. I did... You struggle with background music on streams too? Yeah, it's hard to get right. Welcome back to the show. Hey, Steven. Nice to see you again. Thanks for the follow. I cannot pronounce that. I am so sorry. But welcome. Thanks for the follow. I really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get started with some news. Why don't we? And it looks like my screen is not working. Let me double check. Let's go to a coding view. And I've got a black screen. That's not good. Let me see if I can fix this real quick. If I can do it without rebooting the stream, that would be great. Let's see here. Ignore the man. Oh, there it goes. I'm not sure why OBS is having such a hard time keeping up with the stream there, but there we go. Let me see if I can switch back to my other view now where you can see things a little bit better. There we go. All right. So those are things you got to deal with live, but hopefully that's working now. Let me know if let me know if those videos aren't coming through or the other desktop isn't coming through. Yeah, CssBuilder, that's the Blazor sticker. So I got an amazing community member. He goes by Reverend Geek on Twitter, and he is a friend and speaker, Microsoft MVP, all-around great guy, and happens to be an amazing artist as well. So I got David Neal, or Reverend Geek, to draw this wonderful Blazor sticker for me. So if you're new to the show, or if you just haven't seen these, I've got some emojis that are at the subscriber level. They are Nintendo Power Gloves with the word Blazor written across the fist. And I got David Neal to come up with a sticker size version of that graphic. So I'm going to get those printed out. And if you are in a place where you can meet me at a conference or meetup, I will have those with me. So those will be fun. I really like the way it turned out, and hats off to David Neal for making something so awesome. He really does a great job. If you get a chance to follow him online, let me pop his Twitter profile into the chat here, and check out some of his artwork, because it is
so here comes the question.
Absolutely fantastic. And I'm crossing the stream, so I don't want to do that. There we go. So yeah, David Neal's awesome. I was happy to have him draw that up for us. So yeah, Lauren, I saw you put it in one of your demos that you're working on. That's really cool. I really love Blazor, and I think it has this 80s vibe to it, so I'm trying to keep it going with the sticker there. Did Fritz... He did a Fritz with a purple beard logo. Yeah, that's the same artist, CssBuilder. That's David Neal did the portrait of Jeff Fritz as well, with the purple beard. Speaking of Jeff Fritz, let's go ahead and switch over to the next topic. I'm going to keep this on pause so it doesn't go crazy. There's one rule of streaming: it's don't cross the streams. And I was on the show with Jeff Fritz just Monday, or sorry, Tuesday, April 2nd. I had a few minutes to talk with Fritz and the gang on the code party, or the virtual attendee party for Visual Studio Code. So if you get a chance, I'm going to pop that into the chat room. Save this on your bookmarks if you want to catch it later. It's only a few minutes of my time, but there's a lot of other great folks on there as well. But the Visual Studio launch party was amazing. I don't know how many of you got to attend online, but I was fortunate enough to be there behind the scenes watching it all happen live, and they had amazing guests. We had Daniel Roth there a couple times on the stream, and I got to talk to him while I was out there as well. Blazor is coming along very well. There are new releases in the works, and actually you can catch the roadmap online if you guys want to see the Blazor roadmap at any time. In the chat room, do a bang roadmap, and there is a chatbot command. Let's see if the chatbot's going to work today. And of course, oh, there it goes. Chatbot's a little slow, but the chatbot will hand you the roadmap. If you haven't seen the latest Blazor roadmap recently, you can find it easily that way. +1 for pretzel music. Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking around for stuff, and James Montemagno, he said pretzel is the way to go, so I'm giving it a shot. It does have a free and paid tier. I am using the paid tier. I wanted to make sure that all the artists got supported and whatnot as we put on the stream. So it's like $5 a month, which isn't terrible. I think it's fairly priced considering if you have something like what's it called? What's the thing that I use for all of my music? Spotify. Spotify is $10 a month. There is a free tier. How do you pronounce that? Brainy Chef? Yeah, there is a free version of that. I don't know what the details are around the free tier. I didn't even really check it out. I just went straight for the paid plan, just because it's not too bad for me. I pay like $10 for Spotify, and I get all the music I can eat there. So I figured $5 wasn't too bad for something I can share with folks on the show. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm not getting any income from my stream necessarily. I do get to do part of it as part of my job, so it's not too bad for me. So let's move on to the next thing. While I was at the Visual Studio launch party, while we're still on that subject, I wrote an article called "I Just Installed Visual Studio 2019 Release and Where Did Blazor Go?" So I have had quite a few people as soon as, oh, it's Binary Chef, my bad, as in spaghetti code. Good stuff. Welcome to the show, Binary Chef. I think this is the first time I've seen you on. When the Visual Studio 2019 release came out, people immediately started pinging me, asking me how to get Blazor working on it. I talked to Daniel Roth. He happened to be standing next to me at the same time I was getting these messages, and I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Stay on the preview." If you see the first link up here at the end of the first paragraph, you click that. This goes right to Daniel Roth's quote. He says, "Stay on preview. It's going to be the easiest, best experience for you. But if you don't want to stay on preview, I do have instructions in the blog post on how to get Blazor up and running in the mainstream stable bits of Visual Studio 2019. It comes down to checking a checkbox and maybe reinstalling some of the preview bits from the ASP.NET Core preview bits. Some mileage may vary there, but as long as you have all the tooling installed and you have that checkbox checked, you should be good to go. But again, proceed with caution, stay on preview if you can. Next thing up is a broken link. All right, so I was supposed to have my local host up and running. I'll get to this guy last. We'll move on. I got to open Visual Studio back up for that one. I'll get that going in the background while we talk about this next article. Chris Santi, amazing writer. He's got lots of great blog posts, almost weekly, I'd say. Another good one, he's talking about the building components manually with the render tree builder. And what's I think this article might have originated by some conversations that were going on in the Blazor community about building components manually without using the Razor markup syntax, just actually going directly to a class and creating a component via render tree builder. So there's some verbiage that was going into the docs that was cautioning against doing this. Basically, this is what it looks like. You can build a component out. Let's zoom in here. I'll switch over to code mode here too, because it'll make this a lot bigger. You'll be able to see it better. Let's go over to the coding camera here. All right, so hopefully you guys can see this well. And this is what the render tree builder looks like. This is what your components, when you write them in Razor, get converted to. So this is not like traditional Razor, where it just kind of converts your markup as a template into HTML. It actually compiles your markup into a .NET class. So this is the .NET class. This is how it looks. You have these builders that open and close elements. This creates the shadow DOM, or the DOM abstraction that Blazor uses behind the scenes. And you'll notice it has these sequence numbers, and each element in the sequence has its own unique hard-coded number. And the way that works, let's see if we've got an example in here. I know Steve Sanderson posted one up online, and Chris has some bits in the article here cautioning about how you should use these sequence numbers. So basically what you don't want to do is automatically generate those sequence numbers, because they're used. He has a link to the gist here. The sequence numbers are used for the diffing algorithm, and if you're randomly creating these sequence numbers or automatically generating them, you have a situation where you can easily step on your own feet and cause the entire application to completely re-render components nonstop. So it could be hindering your performance. So use the manual building of these components with caution. So great read though. Chris goes in detail over the uses and the cautions for doing these things manually, and it's definitely worth looking at if you're interested in some of the more manual bits, or some of the deep divey pieces of Blazor. So good stuff there. The next thing I want to get into is a demo, so we'll pop back into the browser here in a minute. Let's go ahead and close these tabs out and jump into Visual Studio. Let's see here, I've got quite a few projects that I want to get up and running. We've got a new subscriber, Jabero. Thank you for subscribing. Appreciate that, man. Great to have you on the show. Let's see, I'm going to adjust some links here. There we go. Get that stuff off the screen. Yes, I've got some MrMagoo to talk about here in just a second. He had somebody ask him a question on Twitter, and he fielded the comment with a demo or a quick example. I wanted to kind of share that on the show as well. See if I can get this junk off my screen here. Make sure I've got the right, my Solution Explorer. Yeah, I've got the right thing up and running. I also wanted to give a quick preview of the next release of the Telerik UI components. This is going to release sometime next week. I know the target date is looking like it's going to be Tuesday. And I know there's probably other Blazor and ASP.NET components, or sorry, ASP.NET Core previews coming as well. While we're trying to align with those things, we do have some new stuff coming out before those new preview bits from Microsoft ship. So we'll release this and we'll catch up with Microsoft again as soon as they release their new stuff. So I guess our cadence hit a little bit ahead of time. Our engineers are just simply amazing, amazing people, and they have just gone whole hog on the Telerik UI for Blazor stuff. So you can see we've got lots of new stuff coming. Lauren's excited. He's like, charts. Yeah, charts are in there. We've got calendar, tab strip, grid, numeric text box, regular text box, which we'll look at some of that stuff. Data inputs, drop downs, animation container, the window component, and of course charts. So lots and lots of new stuff. I will say we did finally break the JavaScript barrier, but what is awesome about our engineering team is they are really focused on only using JavaScript when necessary. So yeah, I'll get to the animation container in just a second. This is an early sneak peek at what's being released next week, so you may see some bugs and errors and stuff as I go through this. So just keep that in mind. This is like super fresh bits, hot off the presses just this morning. I'm using an internal release build here, so everybody was okay with me showing this at work, and they're like, "Go ahead." Just let them know, it'll be in better shape by the time everybody gets it in their hands next week. So you guys have seen buttons before. We got the new calendar component. The calendar, you can select dates and whatnot. But what is really awesome is the fact that you can do single selection, and also on the multi-select, you can actually enable multi-selection here. So if I click on the calendar, just regular click, it just selects one date. If I hold shift and click, I get a range selection. So you can see the output right there. I've selected those 5 dates. I believe, yep, I can also control click, and I can select some things there. So this is where I said we are adding a little tiny bit of JavaScript here and there. So I believe we're capturing some keyboard stuff now with a little bit of an interop. And we need these things for accessibility and whatnot as well, because we're really big on accessibility at Telerik, and we want to make sure that people can navigate these things with their keyboard. So we've got the multi-select calendar, which is super awesome. Nothing new with the tab strip. The grid, I can't remember if we have any updates with the grid. The grid is pretty feature rich right now, so I don't believe we added anything specific to the grid. We did add validation to the numeric text box and the regular text box. So we do have integrated validation with these things. So right out of the box, if they are wrapped inside of an edit form, which is a built-in component with Blazor, you automatically get validation with these components. So you can see they've got one set up here that tells you that there's too many characters in this text box. The text is too long, so we can shorten that up. And you can see as we type, it actually will trigger validation. So these things are really hooked into the inner workings of Blazor at the framework level. So awesome stuff there. Let's see, date input. This is a nice formatted date input box. I want to get into this one. This is really cool. So we've got a brand new drop-down list, and the drop-down list is really great because it supports templates. And when I say templates, I mean we have footer templates, item templates, header and footer templates. So these things are fully flexible to make however you would like them to be. So love it. It also supports validation out of the box too. So if we are to select an item here, notice if I go back to the default, it highlights in red and it says you must have an employee ID. So validation on drop down out of the gates. So very robust drop down lists coming. Let's see, animation container. Somebody was excited to see this. I'm not sure what this error is. Like I said, these are bleeding edge bits. I do know that it does work though. So let's check this guy out. If we do, let's see, we gotta do a show here. So you can see that fade in. If I hide it, it fades out. I'm not sure how these come through on the stream. I don't know if you can really see these. We'll try one that's, let's do a push left. You can see that swipe in and swipe back out. So we have a concept of, let's see here. The sample hasn't been updated on this one. So how this works is it has a container. So you put this container around a set of components and it will animate those components. So this is probably another area where we're very carefully using JavaScript interops, but you don't have to worry about that stuff. So that is totally awesome. You can see the like fade in, fade out type notifications. There's all kinds of really great things you can do with animation containers. And we use the animation containers within our controls. So if you look at something like the drop-down list, when I'm using that drop-down list, it has a nice animation effect. So these animation containers are building blocks that we use internally to make our components really awesome, and then we make those building blocks available to you guys as well, which is so cool. Let's see, I've showed the window component's been there for a little bit. Let's see, I don't have the charts available yet, so they will be in the release. They're not in this demo, unfortunately. So if you want to see the charts, you will have to go to Telerik.com and download the preview bits when they come out next week. We also have our themes in Theme Builder, and let's see, try it now doesn't work either. So we've got some updates coming though. This is looking really good. So this is an early sneak peek at the latest bleeding edge bits from Telerik. So good stuff. Look for that next week. So let's jump back into some stuff for the show here. We have this tweet from MrMagoo. I don't know if MrMagoo's in the chat room today. He usually is, but I haven't seen him yet. So if you're there, MrMagoo, speak up. If not, you'll probably catch the stream later. I know you're a frequent watcher. We chat on Twitter and Gitter and all that good stuff. He had this tweet that went out. Somebody asked, I'm starting out with Blazor. Is there a way to enable binding with radio buttons? Tried using bind, it doesn't work. So radio buttons aren't a natural UI component that works with binding. I think it has to do with the nature of how radio buttons are built. If we look at a radio button, let's see here. I think I have a project where I was dabbling with this myself. Let's open a solution here. Let's go to the start page. I'm addicted to the start window. I'm always hacking around in this thing. So, hey, welcome, Lapusa. Welcome back to the show. Gotta give you a glove in the air for that. Lapusa does a ton of awesome like demo stuff as well. Let's see. So I was going down a rabbit hole on this one, but let's open up a blank page here. Let's see if this project builds. This is just a Hello World project, just so I could get hacking on some stuff earlier. And I'll walk into the example. It builds fine. You can see I just wiped out the counter component and was hacking away. So the question to MrMagoo was, how do you do a radio button? And if we look at radio buttons, we have, they're just inputs. And they have a type of radio. And then they also require a name. And we'll call this contact. And then let's see, what else do they have? They have a value, and you might have something like email is the choice. And then let's see, I think that, oh, you can tell it, you could say it's checked by default as well. So checked isn't a Boolean value. Checked is actually going to be equal to checked, which that can be kind of annoying, as HTML can be at times. Kenneth Along, welcome to the show. Thanks for following. All right, so we have an input radio button, and if we save this, let's do a Control F5. That should render a radio button. Codebase Alpha, hey, thanks for coming back to the show. Seen you here before. Welcome back. So hello world, counter page is the one I was hacking on, and I don't have a button rendering, or a radio button rendering. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Let's see. Yeah, it's rendering nothing at all. I don't see that I did anything completely wrong. You know, it might just be that I need to do a clean and rebuild. This has been a little tricky. Since the update, some of my projects are, yep, Lauren's on it. Lauren's done enough demos projects to know that clean and rebuild seems to be the trend with Blazor in this last update. Can get a little obnoxious, but we are dealing with beta bits, so yeah. Oh, so it's definitely a Razor, not Razor extension thing. So I have my radio button. I don't have any text with it, so I probably botched something with the value of it. So let's see. We've got name. I gave it a value. W3C will always help us out in this situation, so we can do a quick radio buttons HTML and just get a quick example. So here we go. Let's see, they've had better examples. Let's grab the Mozilla example here. So we'll grab their example and just throw it in here. So I guess you actually have to write these out in a label. So they need a type of radio. They don't necessarily need an ID. This example was being posted back to a form. So we can have the ID, let's see, name and value. So name and value is necessary in this situation, but the problem comes when you try to bind to these things. Two-way binding doesn't quite work for a checkbox. And I'm not sure what the exact reasoning is for it, but if we look at how Blazor does binding, we have bind, and that usually binds to value. And that actually won't do anything because the value is always constant on a radio button. So it's always going to be, in this case it's Huey. Let's change this. Let's do email. Let's do contacts. I like this idea better. Right, let's change up our example here. These are all going to be contact types. Email, say SMS, and phone. Let's just say it like that. Then we got the labels here. These are silly. I'm not going to get the Magic Kingdom calling me up and telling me I can't use their characters. Let's see. I'm going to skip this annoying track in my background. That was too much for me. And phone. So like that. Not going to bother with these for now. So we've got kind of a simple example, and what I was saying is if we bind to value, it's always going to be email, it's always going to be SMS, it's always going to be phone, so we can't really use those. Checked is kind of iffy. First of all, it has to be supported. So if we bound to check, bind by default in Blazor corresponds usually to the value component. Part of attribute. So we would have to do something like bind and then say bind checked, like that. but that has to be supported. So that has to be internally part of that input component, which it is not. So you'll get red underscores and it'll say, I don't understand what bind checked is. I don't have a corresponding action that goes with that. So let's see here. Turn this music down just a tad. There we go. So binding directly to these things doesn't quite work, especially when you have multiple radio buttons. If radio buttons have the same name, then they are going to automatically be grouped in the browser. So if we, let's try to reload. I'm going to have to stop and do a clean and rebuild, I think, or we're not going to see any buttons. So let's take a look. Let's see what comes up in the browser here. Yeah, I've only got the one. Let's close this out. We need to do a clean and rebuild. This clean rebuild process, I hope this gets fixed in the upcoming release because it is really slowing me down. Clean rebuild, I'm going to do Control F5 instead of the debugging run because that seems to work a little bit faster. Counter component, there we go. We have email. This message doesn't make sense. Who cares? We have email, phone, SMS, contact options. So if we want to bind those to something, we actually can't use the internal binding system. What we have to use is some custom actions. So we need to do this. We need to say functions with an S, and then we need to actually wire up something to capture that value. So we'd say string selected item equals, and then we could pick a default here. So we'll just say email like that. So we have a selected item that we can now display. Select a contact option, and then we can render it out and say selected item. So now we can bind to what we've actually selected. So now we have a default, and that's checked, so that will be our default item. So those things kind of align, but now what we need to do is when somebody clicks this, we actually need to take actions. We can say on changed or on change, and then we need a method to actually do something with that. So we'll just say void handle change. And this is I came to the same conclusion that MrMagoo needed to. Oh, MrMagoo joined the chat. I was just showing your tweet. I don't know if you caught that part. I don't know if you're here for that, but I was showing that somebody tweeted out for help, and they said, show me how to do radio buttons, and you responded back with a gist. I was just showing how you came to the conclusion you came to, MrMagoo. So we need to handle that change, and we need to pass in some event args, and these are going to be UI change event args. And we can pass that in as args or E or however you like to do that. And then we need to take some action on this. Let's go ahead and put this up here though. Say handle that change. Now we can say selected item equals args. Now the args have two options. You can read that in the IntelliSense here. It's probably too small in the stream, so I'll just read it out loud for you. It says gets or sets a new value of the input. And this is the important part. It says this may be a string or bool. So it doesn't know the exact type that it's coming back as. So when you put in value, you cannot just leave it as value, okay? So you can't say selected item equals value because it is not a string yet. So you have to do toString on it. ToString will go ahead and convert that out for you. That's the safe way to do it. We know it's not going to be a Boolean value because we're binding to on change, not the checkbox. So we need to do this for all of our inputs now. So we can do that and that. And let's see, why are we getting red underscores here? UI change args. I'm not sure why that's coming up the way it is. These should be UI change args. On change. Yeah, so it has the delegate value should be UI change event args. UI change event args. So let's try doing a build. Oh, input tag, that's what it is. My input tag is not closing. So we have to have a close brace on there, and that seems to have fixed that issue. So let's do, again, a clean solution, just to make sure that it's working as with the latest build of what we just wrote. Close a few of these tabs out. Now we should be able to select, and you can see up here when I select these items, phone, email, SMS, that it does bind now to those items. So the way we did that is we called onChange, and we actually just handled it manually. This is actually an easy way to do it. MrMagoo had a little bit more robust of a solution. So in addition to, let's do a zoom in here. Let's zoom way in. In addition to just making sure that we fire the onChange event, he's also allowing the checked value to be toggled. So you can even for each over some values and just have those render out the radio buttons. So I'll drop a link to this. Thanks for answering this on Twitter, MrMagoo. It's really good stuff and a good tip for people that are new to Blazor and haven't encountered radio buttons before. So I thought I'd share that on the show as a quick demo today. So that's how you get that done. Oh, I wanted to expand on that one more second too. You could also create a cascading parameter on this. You could do it that way as well. The solution that MrMagoo provided is going to get you through most scenarios, but what you could actually do if you wanted to take this a step further is create a radio button container and then create a radio button input and encapsulate this functionality inside of a custom component. I would relate this very closely to how a tab set would work. So this is, for all intents and purposes, the same as a tab set, in my opinion. And you could reuse most of the logic from a tab set, which there's plenty of examples on the tab set out there. I can provide one if you guys are having a hard time finding one. I have one on my GitHub as well. But you could incorporate that same type of container and radio buttons as children, and then have a single onChange event and onChain or selected value for that. You could put a border on it and visualize the grouping. You could use native form elements for that. It would be, gosh, I'm terrible with forms lately. Why? Let's see. Form group. I can't remember what the form group thing. Field set. You could use field set for that. So you could put the radio buttons inside of a field set, and they would get that look and feel. Oh, gotta go, MrMagoo. That's fine. I'm glad you got to show up for the bits that you got to share online earlier. So have a good weekend, buddy. All right, so I have some other stuff on my agenda today. Let's see here. I was going to talk about, talked about Render Tree Builder. I have this project that I built, and it's gotten some likes and attention. It is called, let's see, I lost my browser here. So let's go to GitHub. And what I want to start next is showing people how to create a NuGet package. So if I look at my recent NuGet package or issues, I have this thing I built called CssBuilder. Let's look at what CssBuilder does real quick. And CssBuilder for me was this pattern that I came up with, and you come into a situation quite often that you have a component that has multiple toggle states. I use the tab strip again as an example for this one, because tab strip's a fairly simple component, but it's complex enough that it's got some moving pieces. And when you're looking at a tab strip, let's see, do we have a tab strip demo that I can pull up? Let's pull up the Telerik component real quick. We can use that as just a visual to get an idea. Let me make sure I have the right project here. I think this is the one. We'll just take a look at a tab set in general. So tab sets, they have, of course, the different tabs individually that have their CSS properties to them. And some of those properties need to be toggled depending on whether something is selected or disabled. While this guy spins up. And this is fairly common with any SPA framework like React or Angular that we have. There we go. Now I've got my visual up here. Let's change the theme, something a little brighter. Yeah, the Bootstrap one's pretty good. So I've got these tabs, and they're CSS toggles depending on whether they are selected or disabled or whatnot. So if I do a control or a view source on this, you'll notice that I've got K item, K state active, and so on. And if I click on another tab, that changes, and now it's gone to K state default. So those CSS classes toggle depending on which ones I'm using. There's also a disabled tab on the Telerik tab strip. So I don't have it disabled on this example, but the disabled class is something similar. Instead of K-state default, I think it's K-state disabled or something like that. Yeah, so that made it disabled. So you can see that it's kind of, the color is kind of lightened up, and I can no longer click on it. So I've got these three different CSS states that I have to manage. And what CssBuilder does is it allows me to define those states and write them out in a very easy to understand way. So let's see if we can come up with a quick demo. Let's do this. Let's wipe out this radio button example here, and let's come up with something very simple. What can we use for this? Let's add a button. Let's add a div, and we'll give it some style here. Let's call it class equals. Trying to remember my bootstrappy classes. There's alert. Let's give it an alert. This is an alert. Let's see if I got this right, and we'll do a clean and rebuild again. Boy, I hate this part. So the clean rebuild stuff is a pain. So what we'll do is we'll set up a that didn't work. This is an alert, isn't doing that. Bootstrap for, and I just want some of the looky-feely stuff from, I think it's under utilities possibly. We can toggle the border. Let's see, colors. This is what I wanted. We can do text colors in here. Let's toggle some text colors. So I want to do text primary and say text success. Let's play around with these. So we have text primary, let's say. So we've got text primary, and then this is my color text. And then we should be able to see some colored text. So let's see. Suppose I have a grid item. I'm able to give a row a color depending on the property or something like that. Yeah, you can actually do that in the Telerik UI components. You can do that through a template. And I think this example might show you what this approach is trying to do. Once I can get the kind of thing up and running that I want to share, it should make more sense. Okay, so this is my color text, and it's currently blue because it's using the primary. So that, you know, could be an example of just an active state or something. But say I want this to be dynamic, right? I want it to change depending on some other value. So let's put like a checkbox on the page. Type. And these would be kind of internal workings of a component. So checkbox. Let's say this one is checked, and you know what? Let's use our radio button example that we were working with earlier. Let's do some radio buttons. So we'll do input type equals radio, and then let's see, we need the value, let's say blue, and then checked. This one will be checked by default, and then oh, we need to group these, so they need a name. Name is going to be color. Like that. Let's just duplicate these. I'm gonna be lazy, I won't iterate over these. We'll say green, red, and let's see, what other bootstrap things do we have? Red. Let's do yellow, just so we have at least one more. So we do that. And then these aren't all going to be checked, so we'll take that off. We'll have to toggle these. So this should help us. All right. So we've got the ability to select some colors now, and then we need to toggle this selected, or this text color based on what we have here. We need an event, so let's do void, and then we'll handle checked. I'm just kind of giving it a lazy name. We might want to give that a little something a little more meaningful if we're inside of a component or something like that. And then we'll say args. We'll just do E this time, make it nice and short. E is a common term that's used. And then we'll say selected or string, selected color. We'll pick blue by default. So while we're on the theme of using radio buttons today, we'll go ahead and try some radio buttons out. Selected color equals E dot value dot toString. So there, now we're bound to that value. We'll save that. We also need some labels in here. So I haven't labeled these. Label equals label 4 equals blue. And that's where an ID is going to come in handy. So we need to label or add an ID for this label to work. Blue. We'll just copy paste and change the color, green. So I'm just setting up some options here. Green, red, and yellow. So now that we have our options, I made one capital, not, or no, these are all caps. Just to get a little bit consistency there. Save this guy, and we're not going to be toggling that color just yet. I just want to see if what we have right now is working. We'll do it clean, Control F5 to build. Now we should be able to pick some radio buttons, and we should be displaying what we selected. Or no, I didn't render that selection anywhere, but we do have the buttons working, and then the ID is not bound. I'm not sure why the label 4 part's not working. Label 4, ID blue. Not sure what I'm doing wrong there. It's not a big deal. We'll just leave it as is. It's not really part of the demo anyhow. Let's go ahead and display that text though. This is my color text. It is at the selected color. So now that'll display the written color. Now let's toggle the actual color. So we'll need another string here, and this is going to be string equals, or string CSS class equals. And now we have to decide if it's going to be a primary. So we could say if the selected color equals equals blue, then let's do a ternary here. If the selected color equals blue, then it's going to be text primary. And if it's not, then it'll be something else. Let's say text secondary for now. We'll just give it a... It's going to be either one or the other. And why do we have... Oh, my bad. This logic has to go somewhere else. This is in the body of the class right now. We need to put this in a function somewhere. So let's set this to a default. Primary is going to be our default value anyway, so that should clear that error. We can put it in the handle change for now, and this will help prove my point where these things need to go. We don't want that. We want CSS class equals, and this ternary change should return either primary or secondary depending on if we're on blue or not. And this is a very common thing, this pattern anyway, not changing colors of text necessarily, but this pattern of having to toggle CSS states is very common in component architecture. Oops, I meant to Control F5. Whether you're in Angular, React, Vue, any type of SPA framework, Blazor is no different. You run into this pattern quite often. So we can do, we're not binding Y. Let's see why we're not binding. I didn't put the event in. That always helps. So we're not binding to, whoops, not on cancel, on change. So we need to bind to on change. It was funny, somebody was talking about this on Twitter this morning. Morning for me anyway. And they said they enjoyed watching the show because I don't hide the fact that I fail quite often. And I have to agree, like, I've run into these things. These are just common, like, just goofs, you know, just a little slip of the mind. And it helps to see other people have these same problems where you need to go look up documentation, or you just forgot to do some silly little thing like call state has changed or whatever it is. And which may be part of this issue here. So I'm not changing my color yet. So it's still showing text primary. Oh, I didn't bind. Oh, it is definitely Friday, guys. It is definitely Friday. This needs to be at CSS class in order for this to work. Codebase alpha, that is what makes live coding streams what they are. I have to agree. My comparison to the response of that tweet this morning was Bind Friday, was that, you know, there's much more of an experience grab, I think, for so this went gray as soon as I clicked off of blue, and when I go back to blue, there we go. There's much more of an experience grab for people watching a live stream like this, because you can see me recover from an error, and it helps people that are newer to coding learn how to deal with bugs and issues and mistakes, and realize that senior devs are not infallible, where like instructor-led training and conference sessions and Pluralsight courses and things like that teach you very, let's say, theoretical coding. So they teach you very specific things, how to create XYZ app, what the properties of certain things are. They're different learning purposes, so they're different target audiences, both great in their own right. So I'm very happy to see the streaming community picking up the way it is. Let's see, Codebase Alpha says, if you want everything to be slick and polished, go to a conference, watch a demo. Exactly, go to Pluralsight, go to Treehouse, go to those things. There's great courseware out there. There's already tons of amazing courseware out there. Oh, you're the one that tweeted that. I didn't recognize the name in Twitch, and I can't pronounce it. What's the pronunciation of that? I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry. Twitch is terrible with names. I wish they'd allow spaces. It makes things a whole lot easier. But we have the basic data binding set up. I think my point on why I like streaming has been made. Let's move on a little bit. So now we've got this chain here, and we've got, okay, if it's blue, then it's going to be primary. And this blue is just representative. Iwanvani? Is that all one word, or Iwanvan-E? Again, I'm terrible at this stuff. Naming things is hard. Reading names is also hard. All right, so blue could represent some other type of state, like it's checked, it's disabled, it's active, it's inactive, all those things. It doesn't necessarily have to mean blue in this scenario. We're just using this as a quick example, and so now we've got this thing, and it says if it's blue, then it's this, and if it's not, then it's that. And then now I have to either create an if statement, or I can continue this chain for these other colors. And I might say, well, if it's blue, then it is primary. Or let's see, if it is if selected color equals green, then, whoops, this is supposed to be another question mark. These chain tenaries can get a little messy. People don't like them for good reason. Right, so I need my green value there, and then there we go. So I don't remember what the bootstrap green value is. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that one more time. Bootstrap 4, I think it's success, actually. I just remembered that. So text success is what I want. And then I'll stop with this nonsense in a minute and show you how the plugin works. Or not plugin, the pattern works. Text success. So I've got these different CSS states I'm going to toggle. I'm starting to chain them together. It starts getting messy. And then I have this default value and so on. So I can do that, and let's go ahead and clean. Razor Y, clean, rebuild. So a switch case can be helpful. It can. So that's an excellent point. Let's look at that in a second. So now I've got green, and then it goes to gray, and I would add red and yellow. And then, like you just said here in the chat room, we could break this down and go, okay, this is just getting to be messy. We might want to do switch here and say switch on, and then have all of the yeah, this clean and rebuild thing is killing me. We could do a switch case here, and then switch cases get messy, and I don't like those personally. I actually prefer the chain ternary, so people will argue on that. So here's what I came up with. And I know I've probably showed this on, I know I did a show on this already, but we're going to get into something else with this. I just wanted to give kind of a reintroduction to people that haven't seen it yet. So sorry if you guys have seen some of this already, and I'm repeating some earlier content, but I'm building a base for something. So I'm going to call this utilities. Boom, utilities. Then I have this CSSBuilder thing that I created. Let's go into utilities. Let's grab the code for CSSBuilder and grab the raw code here. And sorry if I'm going fast. I have a hard out here in an hour. So I want to make sure I get this as far down the road as I can get it. Let's add a new class. This is just class that I've got set up on a GitHub repo that I thought people would find interesting. And I don't have a NuGet package for it. And people keep asking for a NuGet package. So that's what we're going to talk about next after I finish this demo. All right, so CSSBuilder, and I'm going to make this real easy. CSSBuilder is nothing but syntactic sugar. All it is a struct that creates a string. It has a string buffer, and it has fancy methods on it called string builder or CSS builder, and we can pass in a value, and then we can add a value to it. We also have this fancy thing called add class when. So we have a method called add class. We pass it a value. We tell it when. It's probably easier to see as a demo. So let's look at that. But all you really need to know is every time I call a method, it's doing string buffer and then adding a value to it. That's all it does. It's just adding values to a string. It's just fancy string concatenation. So instead of having this CSS class equals yada yada yada, let's go ahead and move this out to another method here. Let's do void override on. These override things haven't been working for me lately, so I'm trying to remember what the keyword is here that'll get this going. Override on parameter set is what I'm looking for. There we go. On parameter set. Boom. So I'm going to do this on parameter set. So it's just going to localize it in case there's something else in my component that decides it wants to change the CSS value. I'm going to go ahead and just centralize all of that code here. So this should work anytime there is a parameter set. Don't know. Let me double check in this current instance if this actually does what I think it's going to do. I don't actually have any parameters on this one, so I believe it's still going to use the parameter set lifecycle thing here. But let's just do a quick kind of refactoring check and make sure this is still operating before I go ahead and add the CSS builder to it. Most times when I work with this stuff, there's actual parameters being toggled. Okay, so it did break it. So this on parameter set isn't being used because I don't have an actual parameter. Normally, this would be external to the component like this. There would be a parameter that's being set that's triggering this to happen. I don't have that here, so I won't be able to use onParameterSet. We'll go ahead and move this guy back to the handle. But normally I'd put it in onParameterSet because there's usually some external thing binding and causing parameters to be changed on the component. So let's refactor. We've got CSS class. We've got this selected color equals nonsense. We can do better. So we'll use our CssBuilder. Let's just, I don't have, I can't wait till they add this. I want, it's going to be utilities. I don't have IntelliSense for that either. What is this called? Web application 11. Oh. So I don't know if you guys saw that. Using web Control J. Sometimes it does. Let's see if it does it again. I hit enter, and sometimes for some reason it will just completely do that, and I don't know why. So web application 11. Where is my namespace? Components utilities. All right, I named it components utilities for some reason. It's not going to work either. Let me fix this namespace. Namespaces, this is the second show in a row namespaces are causing problems for me. Let's just put this on a utilities namespace. Like that. Using utilities. Boom. There we go. Using utilities. CssBuilder is a struct. So we will do a new CssBuilder. We can pass it in a default value here. So CssBuilder, if we wanted to, we could give it something. Let's see, do we have a border class or something like that we could use as a default here? Let's do Bootstrap again. Damn it, Bootstrap 4. Look back. I know there's some border things we can throw up on there, just to give it a little more flair. We've all got our pieces of flair for Friday, right? Let's see, I don't want components, utilities, border. Let's throw a border on it. Let's make it just a dark black border. So we want this to have a border by default. So it's always going to have a border. So we'll put that in there. CssBuilder, the first thing it's going to add is a border. Now we want to add a class, and we'll add a class called text-primary. So we want text primary, but text primary, we only want it to show up if it is blue, right? So what can we do? Right now we're saying is selected color equal to blue, and that is what's toggling it. Well, we can say CssBuilder add class when the selected color equals blue. And we will get red underscores because we haven't built it. So at the end of this chain, we want to call build. And let's see if that solves our, yep, there we go. There's our underscores going away. And now we can continue with this. We can say add class, and then we can add our success. So we'll add success when the selected color is equal to green. So you can see now how CssBuilder works. It just gives us a nice fluid way of naming out these things. So now we can do the rest of the colors. We've got red. Red is, I think, warning. When the selected color equals red. And we'll just duplicate that. And our final one is yellow. Yellow. yellow is, let's see, we got warning, success, is it alert? So warning is, oh, warning is yellow, danger is red. So these don't have explicit actual color names in Bootstrap for good reason. So this is danger, because those could actually be different colors. Yellow, like that. All right, so it doesn't have to be done on a init, so adding the builder just once, or is there another way of a switch solution? We don't need to add it on a init, because on a init, we're just setting it to text primary. Oh, we're not going to set the border. Yeah, so that's a good point. I added the border in there. Usually this is on parameter set, and that does the trick for us. Let's see. On a init's only going to run the first time. There's probably a better lifecycle method I could hook into. Let's see, on override. Let's see, on init is not gonna work. We don't want after render. Let's just do this for now. We will just set this up here by default. When you're working inside of a component, this might be a little different. So we'll just set that as a default there. So the initial state is this, and then the class builder will handle the changes whenever that event is fired. Inside of a component, we do this on parameter set, and that would actually hook everything up properly. So let's do a clean. And Control F5. And now we should be toggling all of these things. And it's written in a nice, understandable way. So we have green, red, yellow. So it works perfect. So what's cool about this is when is completely optional. So we could add things into this that we want to be static all the time, just like this new piece here. We don't actually have to have that. Thanks for the follow. Bite Me 7. All right. Excellent name. Let's see. We could do add class, and we can move that thing here. And say border dark. If I'm not putting a when, then it's always going to be there. Okay. So we can have that. We could also put in functions here. So this could be a function call that returns true or false. So it's a nice pattern to follow. Thank you. So appreciate that. So when we call build, it just makes sure that there's no white space or any loose ends to tie up. It just converts all that, or cleans up that string and just sets that string. So it's a nice readable pattern. Anybody that comes into this code, I really think they would have an easy time figuring out what exactly is happening. So that's the point of this, is there's like 5 other ways we could have done this. We could have done ifs, we could have done tenaries, we could have done switches. So we could have had 3 different patterns going on to do the same solution to this problem. And now we have one easy way, and one easy readable way that we can communicate this. So that brings me to the next part of this situation. I have this up on GitHub. You can clone it, you can fork it, you can do whatever you want with it. Everybody keeps asking for a GitHub, NuGet package though. So I have this issue out there. Somebody says create a NuGet package. So I tried to collect some feedback on it. Everybody really wants it. I figured why not do that on the show? So why don't we make a NuGet package out of this? So if you guys haven't made a NuGet package before, it's been a long time since I've made one, so I cannot remember the steps to do it, and I know they've changed, so let's figure this out. I'm going to close this solution out here. Actually, let me keep this open. This will actually come in handy, because we can use this solution to test our NuGet package. So I do know I will need at least that much. Let's do a new, let's open a project. I have the CssBuilder out in my GitHub repos here. Let's see if I put it under component utilities. This I think is it. Components utilities. Yeah, this is it. This has the README file and everything in it. So we have this. This is the actual GitHub repo for CssBuilder. Let me check it and make sure I don't have any changes pending. So I only have the one master branch. Changes. I haven't made any changes to it. It does have unit tests, by the way, if anybody's interested. It does have unit tests, and if I open up Test Runner Explorer, these should run. I have another pattern in here as well. So on top of CssBuilder, I have a style builder. So if you need to dynamically build the style attribute, you can do that as well. So all three tests passed. So CssBuilder is working as intended, so is style builder. So good stuff there. So we know we're working with a good code base. Component.utilities I think is probably an okay namespace. This is something you really want to get settled though before you publish a package to NuGet. Is do you like the namespace that you've chosen? Because once you set this guy up and put it into the wild, it gets very hard to change without breaking people's code. So what do you guys think about component.utilities? If you were pulling this into your project, you would import components.utilities and just use CssBuilder, the object. So is that a valid namespace? Should it be something else? You guys have any feedback on that before we start rolling and getting this set up to push on to NuGet? Let me know in the chat room. So I'm going to leave it as is for now. Somebody has better name. Naming things is hard. Just ask Daniel Roth, right? Is it unique? Probably not. That is a good question. Components.utilities. Since it's not, I don't want to type it right here. Since it isn't something like ASP.NET Core.components.utilities, then I think it's probably okay. Components.utilities is a little generic, but it's not overstepping any of the namespaces that exist in the .NET namespace. Something in front of components. Yeah, ed.components. Yeah, naming stuff is really hard. Like I said, ask Daniel Roth. We just changed from, I don't know if you guys have heard this yet. It's pretty common knowledge now, but I stay pretty close to things, so I'm in a bubble. The naming for Razor components is going away, or being, not going away, it's being used less, let's just say that. It is going to be Blazor. So if you are on the server, it is Blazor. If you are on the client, it is Blazor. The component architecture is Razor components. So Blazor server side is coming back. Yes, the rename is real. Let's see, if we go to GitHub, .com/ASP.NET Core issues. Let's see, Blazor, Razor component. Let's see if I can find the issue. Where did this go, Daniel Roth? Where is it? I know you're out there. Oh, there's Daniel's face. We'll find issues by Daniel Roth. I know it's in his name. Maybe he closed it. He might have closed it. So he was asking for input, and I think he got it. So yeah, I don't see it in here anymore. There was an issue that was asking, we're going to change the Razor component names back to Blazor. And yeah, it was a tweet by the .NET team, but it was a tweet to an issue on the official repo. So anyhow, I was just making a point. Naming things is hard. So I need to name this thing. Let's keep it component utilities for now. We won't go too much further though before we have to either pick a name or move on. Back when I've done this before, there used to be a lot of hoops to jump through to get an actual NuGet package created. If you want to see how to create a NuGet package, the best thing to do is go to NuGet.org. And it's been a while since I've been here, but we have documentation, and I know it says what is NuGet, but what we want to focus on is creating a package, and it has a complete overview of the workflow. I'm not going to go through the time to read all of this, and I do have a hard out here in 30 minutes, so we're probably not going to finish this all today, but next week, CSS utilities might be good, Genescu. I don't know if I need my name tacked onto it. I have to think about that. I think we'll end up getting into this next week. And what we'll do is we'll figure out a name, and then we'll go through the steps. It used to be that you had a desktop application that you would run to do this. Now there's command line things that we can do. We can say NuGet pack. There's some other ways to do this. I'm going to show you an even easier way. If we want to create a NuGet package from an existing project, what we can do is go into Solution Explorer, and I'm going to right click on my project and do properties, and it'll bring open this property panel, and I believe it is, oh, it's right here, package. They've added a tab right inside of the properties dialog. So we can say generate NuGet package on build. Boom. That is probably the easiest way to create a NuGet package. I just did a checkbox. Package ID, this is where the naming is very important. So we'll figure this out soon. Description. These are all metadata. These fields that I'm showing you here. So you used to have to manually do all these, and I'll see if I can find the file it generates. So that's like really interesting stuff. So let's go back to GitHub and go to my page where I've got my CssBuilder. I have this README file, and it's let's see. Given the command below, so I wanted the description to read something like what I have in here. When building complex components for, let's take this guy, and we'll kind of mark this up. So I can come into my description field, and I won't go through this all right here on the show, but I'll tidy this up so it makes a little bit more sense. If we look at that description, if we go to, actually let's go here. Let's go to dependencies and say manage NuGet packages. That description field is actually what's shown in this right-hand panel. So this is just the .NET Standard library. Where it says description, that's the metadata that we're adding to our project right now, is what shows up in this panel. That is also shown on NuGet.org. So all I did is right-clicked, went to properties, and now I've got this metadata editor that's going to let me define my NuGet package. I can set a copyright and licensing in here. This is something that I need to set up really before I go too much further as well. So I will, what I'll do is I'll find the licensing for one of the open source standard licensing things. It's important, it's really important to put that in there. I've thrown lots of things up on NuGet without a license file just because I didn't think anybody'd care. People really care a lot. So you want to have, I'll have to look at like what the latest open source thing is that people like, and we'll just attach that file. So you can put that file in your project and just browse to it. Project URL, we can suffice with a GitHub link here. So we don't need an official website on this. Icon URL, that'd be awesome if I had one. I don't. We can actually host that icon on GitHub if we want to. The repository, we'll just put the same GitHub link. Repository type, don't know what that means. I'll have to look that one up. Tags is important, so we might say something like Blazor in here, not Balzer, Blazor. Blazor, ASP, Net Core, and .NET Standard, something like that. Add source link also, source link. So project URL is to the source, isn't it? Don't know. I don't see a source link in this. And then release notes would go here. And then let's see, copyright we need to add. Package version, all this stuff looks good just for a quick sample. So I saved. Oh, that was interesting. I've never seen that before. So when I hit save, everything went away. That is not an intended behavior, I'm sure. That has to be a bug. What? Oh, come on. So, okay, thanks, Steven. That is item group package reference. Does that go in your CssProj, or does that go in the NuGet package spec file? It totally, jeez. So it wiped this out. So even the checkbox, let's try this again, save. Okay. So apparently this doesn't work. There's probably a breaking change somewhere. Let's kill this. That's fun. Oops, I didn't mean to pull Visual Studio Preview again. Jesus. So let's go to, where's Visual Studio? Visual Studio, let's pull the installer. I recommend editing the CssProj directly. This is supposed to do it for us. It's supposed to be nice tooling, Steven. This isn't fair. I don't want to check for updates. Come on, just give me the launcher. I don't know where I've put this. Let's try the main instance here. Jeez, that was definitely a bug if I've seen one. Visual Studio. Notice my Visual Studio is different. I don't have my theme installed on this yet, so it's not pretty, but it's still updating my recents list, and it's not showing the other one. All right, so let's go find it. It's not showing it on the list. It is under GitHub. Blazor, nope, not Blazor utilities, component utilities. Boom. Got to reopen this. So we'll use the non-preview with this stable, I don't know what you can see, stable version of Visual Studio. It just launched 2 days ago. We'll cut them a break. It managed to go to the same window we were on. I don't know if I'm scared or pleased. Let's see. All I want to do is check this, hit save, and good, it kept it. It didn't delete my checkbox. So let's see. We'll put the project URL. We'll put. Let's see. I can close this out. Let's get some of these tabs off my screen. This will be my preliminary description. We can put that in. Copyright info would go there. Some tags. We'll just say Blazor for now. I don't need this to be perfect yet because I want to show how this actually just works. And then I think it needs to be. No, we can do debug or release, but we'll do release and see. Control Shift B. Let's do a build. And this should actually eject a NuGet package for us. And you can see right here, probably hard to see on the stream. I'll read it. It says successfully created package, and then it has a path, bin, release, components, utilities 1.0 NuGet package. So we have a file. If we click on this toggle solution, you'll see that we have the ability to browse. We can go to bin, release, and .NET. Oh, there it is. NuGet package is right here. Let's go ahead and jump into this folder from the File Explorer. So I probably should be taking Steven's advice and doing directly from CssProj, but I wanted to show that the metadata editor is handy. It does work. It does work in the official release, as we just learned. These are actually just zip files. NuGet packages are just zip files. So I can go in and rename that NuGet package to .zip, and I can actually explore it. And in here you'll find the NuGet spec file. Let's see if I can open this spec. Visual Studio Code is fine. We can use VS Code to look at our NuGet spec. It's a nice, lightweight, handy editing utility that I can take a look at something with. I don't know how to zoom in Visual Studio Code. Does anybody know the hotkey for zooming? There it is, Control+. So this is what the NuGet package description file actually looks like, or the new spec. So it has a meta tag. There's our namespace version. These are all the fields that I just showed you inside of that properties window, right? Require license acceptance. It's just basically an XML file that mirrors the fields that I showed you in the editor. It also has dependencies, and this can be very helpful as well. I've had to manually edit this before. NuGet package explorer. What is this, Steven? Steven just popped something in the chat room. I see Oren's on there, so must be good, right? NuGet package explorer. Ah, okay, so this is kind of a utility to jump in. This is actually a lot like the desktop tool that I used, Charbonneau.components.utilities. I don't know if I should be slapping my name on these things. I don't know. Is that a little too much vanity? Yeah, this is the classic editing experience for creating a NuGet package. I used to use this all the time. This was the desktop app that I was talking about. I guess they broke this off into a standalone GitHub repo. Create, deploy. This used to be called something. Was it the .NET EXE you could do this with originally, or something like that? It's been a really long time since I've created a NuGet package for publishing. But yeah, this is very handy stuff, and and it lets you edit all the details. This isn't how they describe it in the docs, though. I was kind of trying to hit closer to what the docs were saying, but that is an awesome thing. I'm gonna have to bookmark this guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a star on that because I want to make sure I remember to go back there and look. And put a watch on it too. Watching releases only, I'll watch for that one. So it's kind of a similar parallel to what we did here, that tool. This is just already in Visual Studio. We'll use this for now. And I've created a package. I renamed it to zip so I can show you. They're basically zip files with a description in it. You can see where the libraries end up inside of that package. There's our DLL file, and there's some other metadata in here that we don't need to know about. Let's close that window. Actually, let's rename this again. So this needs to be new pkg NuGet package. I'm going to go back to the original example. This is the one with our radio buttons on it, and I've hard-coded the CssBuilder in it under utilities. I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Boom, delete, utilities, gone. So I should get some red underscores in here. CssBuilder is no longer a real thing. So what I'm going to do, all right, take care, and thanks for tweeting me earlier about what you learned on the show. Appreciate that very much. Hopefully we'll see you again next week. What I'm going to do next, and before I'm going to start winding down here in a minute. Again, I got a hard out here in about 10 minutes. I want to test my NuGet package. So one thing I want to do is make sure that it installs correctly and the metadata looks good and all that stuff before I throw it up on NuGet. Because here's the catch: if you put something on NuGet and you need to make a change, you need to roll a brand new rev. You can't update a NuGet package. You can only add a new version of a NuGet package. So unless you want to bump your version to fix typos, then check your packages before you upload them. Let's go into dependencies and manage NuGet packages. And in this package source, I'm going to add a location to go find that package. You can see I've got some that I was playing with before. We just hit this plus button and define a package source. And I'm going to call this one CssBuilder test. And then we'll go ahead and search my system for that file. So it is under my GitHub folder, under, not Blazor Utilities, Component Utilities, Utilities, bin, release. It should be under here. So we'll go ahead and add that folder. We'll hit OK. NuGet, let's see what happens in this latest version of Visual Studio. Let's go to Browse. You used to have to restart Visual Studio to get that to work. So it immediately shows up. So here's Components, Utilities. And then you could see how this is going to be previewed in the NuGet Package Manager, the Package Manager Explorer, or this would look on NuGet.org. So this is going to be very similar on NuGet.org. You can see there's the description all written out, version number. I need to fill in the owner and authors, so I can see right there. I don't want the owner to be Component Utilities. It just filled that in for me. It's not a good description. The project URL. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say Codebase Alpha. Think over the next week, because I'm gonna pick this up next week. I'm not gonna publish this today. I wanted to get close, but I wanted to make sure everybody understands where all the pieces fit in creating a NuGet package. So we'll have some time to name this. We'll pick this up early on the show next week and go ahead and publish it to NuGet. So we've got the description. You can also set up previews and stuff like that. So we've got the version number. You can see it doesn't have any dependencies. It does pick up all that on its own. This is a .NET Standard library. Not sure why it doesn't show that information, so I might need to do a little research on that as well. Let's see. So this is how you can check it, and then we can install it. So now that we have it there, we can install it. This is how you can create local packages as well. This namespace not found thing. So it did install the package. That error that just popped up is because it's still looking for the old one that I had. So I should be able to say utilities here now. Component dot utilities. So components is going to be something that needs to change, because you can see it's that components namespace is something that's conflicting with the components that are built. Yeah, so components is the namespace by default, I believe. I wrote that right. So it's clashing with the actual components that are being built with Blazor. So if we go into the solution here, I'll show you what I'm talking about if I'm correct. Let's double check this. Under Object, Debug, ASP.NET Core 3, Razor Pages. It's not a Razor Pages. Which one is it? I'm looking for components, pages. There we go. Counter. This is the auto-generated stuff. And you can see web application 11.components .pages. So that components namespace is part of the auto-generated components that are coming out of the framework. So I think there's a little clash there, if I understand what's happening correctly. So we should probably rename that to something other than components, just because it looks like it's confused. So it's looking for web application.components. So that is not going to work. All right. So let's fix that next week. So next week we'll rename this, and we'll get this working in this sample app here. And once we do that, we can publish it on NuGet. So I've only got like 10 minutes left. Let's see, chat room here. If you want to, I don't remember my commands. I got a new chatbot a couple weeks ago. I added some commands. Let's see, Streamlabs. I have some useful links and stuff in my chatbot. Let's go ahead and grab some of those links now and post those in chat for everybody. I will do like a follow-up with some show notes. Those things will be on my website. Let's see what my bot has to offer. I tried to make these things easy on myself, and I need to create a commands command to list all of my chatbot commands. Let's see. If you guys want to check out the latest bits for Telerik, we talked about that today. If you give the chat a bang Telerik, that is the link for the preview of the Telerik bits. I will post show notes on my blog, so ed.charbonneau.com. You can get some show notes there. I usually post those 24 hours after the show airs, because I need to wait for Twitch to upload my video to YouTube, and they ask for a 24-hour exclusive rights. So I will be uploading that and posting those show notes by Monday. Let's see here. We've got, in the meantime, you can find my GitHub page by doing bang GitHub. That's my GitHub page. You'll find CssBuilder there and other demos from the show. And I think that's about all I've got for you guys right now. I'm going to go ahead and say have a good weekend. And if you have any last minute questions, feel free to pop those in the chat room. If you get a chance to go to my website, if you are in any of these areas that are listed in my speaking schedule, I will either be talking at a conference or sponsoring a booth. So come out and see me. I'll be in Knoxville, Columbus, Seattle, Michigan, Louisville, Kentucky, Nashville, Tennessee, and Sofia, Bulgaria, and possibly Orlando, Florida this year. So if you see me at any of those locations, stop by, say hello. You'll see me at Star Trek, Bite Me 7. Do you have a first name, Bite Me? So I know who I'm encountering at Star Trek. Thanks, Steven. Thanks for joining the show. Jason Lee. Oh, my name is Earl. I'm sure you get that a lot. Not necessary, right? So yeah, awesome, Jason. I'll see you at Star Trek. Make sure you stop by the Telerik booth, say hi, grab a t-shirt. I should have some of those stickers by then. Just mention that you chatted with me on the show, and I'll make sure I get you one of those. Well, thanks, everybody. I appreciate you guys coming out and watching the show. Next week, we'll push that thing up to GitHub. And what's that? Oddly enough, him and I have the same. Oh, wow. That is awesome. Well, at least it's somebody cool, right? I'd rather be like name twins with somebody awesome rather than like somebody that nobody wants to associate with. Jason Lee's awesome. Yeah, so we'll push that thing up to NuGet next week. We'll have some more community news. We'll deep dive into the latest Blazor or Telerik UI for Blazor bits next week, because they'll be out in full release with the 0.40 release. That's charts and all that. So we'll look at some charts. We'll see what we can do with that release. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great weekend.